Hello viewers, welcome back. We are excited to be here with you guys today. Today we will be interviewing Shaurya. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Shaurya and I'm the co-president of DOC. I'm also a senior in high school and 17 years old, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you guys today.
Thank you so much. We are honored to be interviewing you today. Sarah, would you like to kick us off with the first question?
Yes, of course. So the first question is, what does substance abuse mean to you, and why do you think it's important to talk about it?
So I think substance abuse means to use, like it says in the name, substances that impact you in a negative way. And these can be many different things. These can be tobacco, alcohol, lots of nicotine substances, as well as drugs, but not just illegal drugs, but also over-the-counter and prescribed medications that people can overdose on or just take too much of, and that can really impact you in a negative way. And I feel like it's important because while people say it's such an important issue, there's not a lot of education about it in schools and just not a lot of education about it for young people in general. And so I feel like this is limiting the awareness that we have and causing lots of issues to happen with people our age and the young adult population.
Yes, I agree. It's a very important topic to talk about, and I agree with you about not getting enough education about it. Thank you, Shaurya. Okay, do you feel that substance abuse is a concern among teens or young adults in our community, and why or why not?
Of course, it most definitely is. And this is most prevalent in obviously high schools. And it's something that I've seen with people around me, and it's something that I see every day. I personally know people that go to the bathrooms for vaping breaks, and I know people that import other illegal substances from other states just because they're not legal in North Carolina for underage people. I also know people that have fake IDs. So these are all really important things that I, and I'm sure many other high schoolers, see every day. But we can't, even if we report it or say anything about it, there's never any evidence or this or that or this. So it's just something that I feel like people should just make the decision of their own. I can't do this, but obviously they're not, and so that's why it's an important topic to talk about.
I know you're in high school, and I'm in middle school, and I think there's some people in my school as well that go to the bathrooms as well to vape and do drugs and all of that. And I know there's some kids in my school as well that get vapes and drugs from 21-year-olds because they're legal to be able to, like, substances like vapes. But yeah, moving on to the next question. So, have you ever learned about substance abuse in school? And if so, what stood out to you the most?
Yeah, so we just talked about it a little bit in middle school, a little bit in high school, but there wasn't really a lot of kind of emphasis on you shouldn't do these things. There were a lot of talks about the after effects and what kind of things can happen if you do take it, but it wasn't really strong, and there wasn't really a message to it, which is like you shouldn't do these things, right? And so I think that's probably the one thing that wasn't there, was the kind of the background message that you shouldn't do this. But that's pretty much the one thing that I learned from that.
We touched this topic a little bit in school, but we don't actually get to the point. This is substance abuse, and this isn't good for you. You shouldn't.
I definitely agree with that. In school, we got around the topic, like Samara said. We learned about different types of drugs, like hallucinogens. And yes, that might come in handy someday, but it doesn't directly tell us that substance abuse is bad for you. Where do you think most young people get their information about drugs and alcohol from?
I think the number one source of that information is from social media, right? Everyone has it nowadays, everyone is on it nowadays. And so where they get the information from is social media. And that's bad, right? Because social media has romanticized these things. It makes it look like, oh, if you do it, like, you're cool. And if you do it, it's good. And that's obviously the opposite, right? If you're doing drugs, you're hurting your body and other people are not. And so that's really bad, right? And the health education that needs to be there about not doing these things is very limited, just like we talked about, right? So I feel like social media is definitely not a great place to get this information from, but unfortunately that's the way it is today.
Yeah, I think social media is definitely like one of the biggest places to get like all your info on substances, drugs, and all that. And sometimes maybe an elderly person in your family, or maybe they have experience with substances, so maybe you get the information or all the context about vapes.
I definitely agree with you. Usually social media glamorizes drugs and it makes it look really good. In reality, it doesn't actually do that. It just makes your life a lot worse and it doesn't touch on the negative effects. So I definitely agree with that.
The next question is, what do you think some of the reasons teens might be starting to use substances like alcohol, drugs?
I think there's definitely kind of two ways that people start doing it. One way is when they're facing problems or issues in their life, right? These can usually be family problems, they can be academic problems, or they can just be social problems, right? They don't feel like they're reaching up to the mark in each of these areas of their life. And another one is what we touched about, where they just want to do it because they just want to be cool. That's something that's growing nowadays, right? Where people see on social media, people see with their friend groups, they see, oh, people are doing these things, why shouldn't I do these things? And they aren't seeing any visible negative effects, right? So that's why they start wanting to do it. But once again, these aren't really great things. That's the worst way, right? But if you're doing it because you have an issue in your life, just like we talked about, I think the first step should be to get help, right? From an adult, from a mental health professional. Not drugs will just provide instant gratification. It's not really a permanent result. But I feel like people aren't really thinking about that. They're just thinking about, how do I make these feelings go away? And that's definitely one of the main reasons.
Yeah, I think this is definitely really true. Maybe kids wanting to make it school, maybe this is like why they get influenced. I think another big reason is like peer pressure. Maybe some people are like forcing them, like blackmailing them into doing substances. On that note, Arya, would you like to kick us off with the next question?
Of course. In your opinion, how does peer pressure influence decisions around trying drugs and alcohol?
I think peer pressure is definitely a really big factor, especially if you've never done it before and it's your first time. Peer pressure is a huge factor. And I think it depends on, if you're a person that's never done it before, who you're associating with, what influences you have in your life, right? If you are hanging out with people that are heavily into drugs, that do this all the time, that are very used to it, and if you as a person can't see any negative effects, when there's something that kind of changes your life, if you get a bad grade, right? Or if something happens in your social life, then you're more inclined to say, these people are doing this. They're not suffering any visible negative effects, so I should do this to make my feelings go away, just like we talked about, right? Or even if you don't suffer anything happen, even if nothing happens to you, they say, hey, you should try this. And because you don't see any negatives of it, you're more inclined to say, okay, let me try it. And that obviously leads into addiction, that leads into people getting hooked, wanting more, and it creates a chain reaction from there.
I definitely agree with that. And the thing about negative effects is that they're not always visible in the first maybe couple of days of trying it. They get more inclined, the peer pressure makes them want to do it more. But there's no actual visible effects until maybe a few days of trying it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you. I think, as you mentioned too, your friend circle definitely also matters, and that's a really big reason on how peer pressure can affect you. Now, do you think mental health and stress are connected to the use of substance abuse in teens? And if so, how?
I think along with peer pressure, mental health and stress is the next biggest thing that can make people start this, right? Especially if you are a teenager and you are going through these things. It's much more common in teenagers than adults, right? That's why adults are less inclined to try for the first time. But if you're a teenager, you're going through a really kind of tumultuous time. Just like we said, right? Those three areas, whether it's social, familial, or academic pressures. Those are really big things that can make you want to try drugs, just to make your feelings go away. Because I think when you're a teenager, your feelings, your emotions, they matter a lot to you. And they're really volatile, right? They can change anytime. And so that really is one big factor for adolescents and young adults, is your kind of mental state and your emotions. But I feel, once again, getting help for mental issues and eating disorders is, in some communities, looked upon as a stigma, right? If you're saying, hey, this so-and-so is getting help for depression, so-and-so is getting help for anxiety, then it's, oh, like they're crazy, they have a mental disorder. And so you think, oh, that's gonna happen to me. I might as well take drugs to make it go away. But what they don't realize is, would you rather hurt your body, or would you rather be judged by some people that probably don't even know you? So I feel like when people have to make a decision there, since they're teenagers, they don't really have experience with that, and they make the mistake of making the wrong decision.
Like we said, peer pressure is definitely one of the big reasons. Mental health and mental health problems too is a main factor into what causes people into substances.
Yeah, moving on. What advice or message would you give to other students around the world about making healthy choices and staying informed?
I think just like we said, drugs are definitely not the answer. If you're trying to be cool, it's not cool. If you're trying to be cool, I would say try to be healthy, go to the gym, work out. I know a lot of people, and especially nowadays where going to the gym is getting more popular, and I'm happy to see that. I also like that. I also have lots of friends that go with me. So I feel a healthy lifestyle, that's definitely really important. But if you're facing any mental health issues, if you're facing mental disorders, mental problems, please get help, right? Please talk to an adult. Please talk to a professional, because what everyone wants to see is you getting better, right? And don't worry about judgment from people, because there will always be uneducated people that don't know anything about my mental disorders that will start saying, oh, this person has this. And it's really not worth listening to them. Please definitely don't make the wrong decision.
That's very inspirational, and thank you so much for your time.
So thank you so much for all of your encouragement for our campaign. It's been great, and I'm sure a lot of people will be inspired by your response and the advice you gave.
I appreciate you guys talking to me. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Remember, If you start to vape, you can't escape.
Stop, think, say no to drugs.